From controversial moves to flat-out playing dirty, these are the NBA players who forced the league to change the rules. Now, only true NBA fans will know the last one, so stay to the end to see if you can guess which one we're talking about. The All-Star Game Vote Rule. The NBA All-Star Game is a mid-season showcase that brings all the top superstars together. Every February, fans get a chance to see the best the league has to offer. From Michael Jordan to LeBron James to Kobe Bryant and many others, several current or future Hall of Famers have earned the right to take part in these festivities in front of millions of rabid fans. But what if I told you that an NBA bench player nearly became an all-star starter? Say hello to Zaza Pachulia. 6 years ago, something happened before the NBA All-Star Game that nearly caused a nightmare for the league. During the first round of All-Star voting back in January 2017, Pachulia received almost 440,000 votes, ahead of his Warriors teammates Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. Pachulia didn't deserve to be an all-star starter. He was barely scoring 5 points per game and snagging 6 rebounds per game. But when the entire country of Georgia voted for him, it exposed a fatal flaw in the system. Up until this incident, NBA All-Stars voting was entirely determined by the fans. But to correct the problem, the NBA's All-Star voting process is now split between fans, media experts, and players. 50% of the vote is determined by the fans, while media experts and players each have a 25% say in who makes the All-Star Game. But this next player on our list deserved to make several All-Star Games just based on his stats alone, even if the move he used to get there could be considered dirty. The James Harden Rule. Whether you love him or hate him, there's no denying that at one point, James Harden was one of the biggest personalities in the NBA. With his trademark beard and his tendency to jack up any shot from anywhere, all eyes were on him. But it's what the league didn't see that allowed him to make several All-Star games in his career. When he played in Oklahoma City for the Thunder, Harden was no more than a bench player, averaging only 9 points per game. But once he was traded to Houston during the 2012 season, his points per game totally ballooned to over 30 points per game. What was going on here? Did Harden get a hold of MJ's secret stuff from Space Jam? Nope, he has simply used a controversial move that has since been banned from the league. Whenever a defender would try to guard him, Harden often locked arms with them in an attempt to draw the foul. It worked, so well in fact that Harden got to the free throw line over 40% more than LeBron James. But once Harden was caught by the league doing this move, the NBA put an end to it. The so-called Harden Rule was introduced in 2017 and states that a player can no longer draw a foul by forcing contact themselves. Also, if a player isn't already shooting before a foul is called, it's no more than a common foul. Shutting down dirty moves is one thing, but sometimes a player is so dominant, they literally force the size of the court to grow. George Mikan breaks the league. George Mikan was one of the NBA's earliest superstars when he played from 1946 to 1956. While he was a 5-time NBA champion and 4-time NBA All-Star, Mikan is most well known for his imposing size. During a time when NBA players were much shorter than today, Mikan towered over his opponents at 6'10" and 245 pounds. If there was a human version of a brick wall, Mikan was it. He was so dominant in the paint and was so good at shutting down offensive players, the NBA was forced to widen the paint from 6 to 12 feet in order to force Mikan to move around more. Mikan was such a formidable defender that the league invented the shot clock, as well as the rule against goaltending. And if you've ever participated in basketball practice or played basketball in gym class growing up, chances are you've gone through the drill that is named after him, the Mikan drill. But while the NBA tweaked the game to counter Mikan's freakish size and strength, one NBA player knew how to go toe-to-toe with bigger opponents in the paint. Charles Barkley. Sir Charles, Chuck, the round mound of rebound. Whatever you want to call him, Charles Barkley certainly made his impact on the NBA during his 16-year career from 1984 to 2000. Standing 6'4" and weighing 252 pounds, Chuck would make the majority of average people look small. But believe it or not, he would be considered short and undersized for a small forward. Chuck knew this and was either infamous or famous for how he'd battle with bigger guys in the paint. Countless times throughout his decorated career, Charles would repeatedly back down bigger defenders in the paint until he found a good position to attempt a shot. Unfortunately, he would often take entire possessions to do this, which slowed the pace of the game down. In response, the NBA came up with the 5-second rule. Simply put, the 5-second rule says that the player with the ball cannot dribble with their back to the basket for more than 5 seconds. If they do, the 5-second violation is called and the ball is turned over to the opponents. This rule helps to keep basketball a fast-paced and exciting game. But along with making sure basketball stays fast-paced, the NBA is also constantly looking for ways to keep the game safe for its players. Remember Zaza Pachulia, the guy who almost broke the All-Star voting? He's back, but this time it's for a far more controversial reason. The Zaza Rule. If you're a Spurs fan, this next rule change might reopen some old wounds and make you angry. In Game 1 of the 2018 Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors, Spurs star Kawhi Leonard went up for a three-pointer. Pachulia raced over to guard him, but Leonard landed on Pachulia's foot and rolled his ankle. This re-aggravated an injury Leonard suffered earlier in the game, and was bad enough to keep him not only for the rest of Game 1, but the entire series as well. This led to a Warriors sweep, and Golden State's 4th appearance in the NBA Finals. Following major criticisms of Pachulia's dirty play from Spurs coach Greg Popovich and many players and fans, the league responded by instituting a rule change to prevent the incident from happening again.
Two-step, lead with your foot closeout is not appropriate. It's dangerous, it's unsportsmanlike, it's just not what anybody does to anybody else. And this particular individual has a history with that kind of action.
According to the rule change, referees now have the option to determine whether a defender's foot placement was reckless or unsafe when attempting to close out. If there was no attempt to injure the opponent, a technical foul is called. However, if an official determines the player intentionally tried to hurt an opponent, a flagrant foul is called. But while the league corrected this foul, it took the entire career of the next player on this list to make a rule change. Reggie Miller Rule. While all NBA players are competitive, few were as hell-bent on winning as Reggie Miller was during his time in the NBA. In his 18-year career spent entirely with the Indiana Pacers, Miller was one of the league's best shooters and would do absolutely anything to win. One of the tools that allowed Miller to be so successful throughout his career is now a thing of the past. Miller wasn't the only one to use a leg kick to help him create space on jump shots. Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade also did this as well. If players attempt to use it in today's game, an offensive foul is called, and the ball will be turned over to the other team. The game has changed significantly enough thanks to this rule that some of the jump shooters who used to use the leg kick are now having to either find different looks outside or drive and slash to the basket. Reggie Miller may have retired in 2005 after cementing a Hall of Fame legacy, but one of his greatest moves will live on. Even if other players are now prevented from doing it, Miller has changed the game in more ways than one. Hack-a-Shaq Rule Change. Although the next player on this list has left his mark on the game of basketball as well, a mark even bigger than his size 22 shoe. That's right, we're talking about Shaquille O'Neal. Big Aristotle is obviously one of the greatest big men and overall players to ever set foot on hardwood. But if there's one area where he struggled mightily during his career, it was at the charity stripe. There's no sugarcoating it, Shaq couldn't hit a free throw to save his life. Shaq had a career free throw shooting percent of 52%, with his best percentage at the stripe being 62% during his 2002 season with the Lakers. But since virtually everyone struggled to stop Shaq in virtually every other area of the game, they attacked his struggles as a free throw shooter by using the now famous Hack-a-Shaq strategy. While the strategy worked for a while against some of the NBA's other bad free throw shooters, such as Dwight Howard, Andre Drummond, DeAndre Jordan, and Ben Simmons, eventually Hack-a-Shaq was discouraged for various reasons. Some felt that it slowed down the pace of the game, while others thought that it temporarily might put the bad free throw shooters in a better rhythm, helping them improve at the line. Not only that, but the strategy is also rarely used anymore, since there aren't many players bad enough to warrant an opposing team using the Hack-a-Shaq strategy. At the start of the 2016 season, a rule change was instituted which awarded teams who were fouled a free throw in possession of the ball in the final 2 minutes of each quarter, rather than just in the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. This effectively made the hack-a-Shaq strategy all but obsolete in today's NBA. Didn't know the last one? That's okay. Tune in next time to find out the 8 NBA players who you didn't know dated beautiful celebrities.